That's a giant picture of me.
Hey, Ryan.
Whoa, somebody's here.
That's me.
Where did they go? There, Scott.
How's it going?
Good. Look at this. It's just Google Hangouts on air again. Wow.
Yeah, and basically you set it up through YouTube, but well done.
Can they update this thing once? It's been this way for 3 years, I think.
Yeah. I wonder if they know where to find us.
I shared. I'm going to put the link in the Voxer thing.
Yeah.
Where the talking is.
Hey, well, thanks for putting this thing together, man. I'm kind of excited about it.
It should be fun.
We'll see where we go, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and to let you, I mean, I'll tell everybody else, but in a perfect world, like I would imagine, I would love to be able to have this thing go for a while and then kind of hand it off, you know, because I would like to try to get a fair amount of podcasts kind of going of teachers having these kind of conversations. And I love social studies. If we can get this going and then hand it off and kind of rotate some people through. Amy.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. So it looks like it was a Skype problem.
Maybe.
Yay. That's fantastic.
After the fourth pair of headphones, we figured it out.
So it wasn't the headphones, yeah. We're waiting on Chris. Okay.
Well, I feel a little better because I was really confused. I'm like, why is nothing working?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let me close the blinds behind me. I'm gonna get a beverage real fast too. Hold on.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? And you're right. It's so cool to hear people's voices.
I know, right? I know. Hey, Chris.
Hello. Can you guys hear
There
me?
you are. Yeah.
Hey, we're all here.
Woohoo.
The whole gang's together now. Ryan ran
Nice
out.
to hear you, Amy.
Yeah. I feel like we're not conversing by Post-it note.
That was awesome. So you can tell the teachers, like, okay, we can overcome any technical difficulty here because we've had them all.
Yeah, well, you just got to roll with it, right? I mean,
We'll
that's
make
what
it work.
happens.
That's right. Hey, at least there's not 25 kids in the class, like, going nuts.
Yeah. We're all here.
Is everybody here? Let me put my headphones on. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good to go.
Oh, it's working. So, Scott, I've not done one of these. You're telling me this thing is, so it's going to be a live YouTube link when I'm done, right? So I can just download this thing, right?
Yeah, so you should be able to actually come and, if you want to check the audio quality, on your YouTube channel, you should be able to see your live events if you go back on that live streaming.
Mm-hmm.
You should actually be able to click into the stream for this event. You can actually join in and see what it sounds like, at least. I don't know if we can.
Interesting.
Let's find out.
So could I have you guys all be quiet for a second? Look at that. That's sweet. You could watch the past. That's crazy.
Does it sound good?
It did. It sounds perfect.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, welcome. We did it. Talking Social Studies, episode 1. I hope. Just let you guys know. So I'm a podcaster, and I'm not always, but I normally have something to help my tension. So that's what I do.
That's going to be the next one, Patio PD.
Yes, patio PD. Yeah.
Hey,
Well, it'd
if
be
you
an
guys ever-
interesting social studies geography lesson on beers from around the country. And
There we go. I like
right?
that idea. Yeah.
well, if you guys ever listen to the On Top of the World history podcast,
I
two
did.
guys
I listened to that.
the big picture where they always have their beer recommendation during the chat and they crack them open.
Oh, neat.
Talk about what they're drinking during the podcast.
It sure helps. It helps. It helps. 'Cause Amy, you were mentioning the idea before about being like, oh my, a little bit of stage frightness or whatever, and a little cocktail helps. So everybody kind of finds their own way. So here's just a couple of my 2 cents if you're interested. Like, what do you look at while we're recording? I don't look at the our chat conversation happening at all. I like to keep the show notes open. As well as the show notes we're going to be talking about different sort of links. And so somebody mentions the Hippo document analysis. So as whoever's talking about that one, I'm going to be over there looking back and forth. And for me, I use more audio cues to go back and forth and kind of look over there. So that's one thing. The other one I think I told both you guys is generally is if you notice that we're all going to have like a segment to talk about, and we really want to make that a conversation, not a read. And you talk for a while. Think about limiting yourself to about a minute or two before you're going to stop and have the expectation that one of the three of us is going to jump in with a yes and a question about it, or I think that's awesome and why, or boy, I could use it here, or some sort of a follow-up.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Rock on.
Good. Okay, I just tested you there, so I stopped talking. All right. So if you hear the pause and nobody's talking, feel free to jump in. It may be a little awkward because it is 4 of us, and we don't know whose necessarily turn it is. And I don't think we really need to do turns per se, but let's just try to have a normal conversation of 4 people who can't see each other.
So I do have a question about just the logistics of this. I know you started that site. Is the intent then that the things that we're talking about we can reference as if they're on that site?
Yes. So let's do that. I heard what you said before. I don't know yet, Scott. I'll look into that. Scott asked about the idea about how public is this and we all can edit. So we'll take a look into that. But yeah, the idea is that we are going to have a site. We don't know what the site's name is, but we'll just keep referring people to check out the site and the show notes for them to be able to look at the links. And so, although we're putting notes to ourselves on the show notes, to make it really easy is we're going to make this thing public to everybody else. So we don't have to recopy all the links, and we could change this during the show if we find something. In my other show that I do, we're editing the document as we're talking. We're like, oh, that made me think of this, or somebody said something, I'm going to add that link to it. So hopefully, this living document is just something that we're going to pass on to the public.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay. The bells and whistles, there's not going to be many, but like you saw, I had a little intro sound, a little music in there. We'll have a couple sound effects. I'll do that all on the back end. After recording this thing, we'll hit done. I'll take the YouTube link. I'm going to download a YouTube link and just strip the audio out of it. That audio I'm going to put into a little audio editor, and in the front end, I'll throw a little bit of music, maybe put a couple sound effects here or there in it, but not tons, just as we kind of transition from one thing to the next. And then from there, we're going to need to be able to put it up and host it and kind of run from there.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan.
In the future, if we could be able to maybe delegate some other stuff, like once we're finished with an episode, if somebody could be the person responsible for taking the show notes and linking them to the page, if anybody wants to volunteer to do that, would be great. And then I think all of us should take part in the pushing this thing out, right? Once we're done with it, like, sell it on SS Chat and push it out to your people and do whatever.
Yeah. And I don't mind doing a little bit of that, but since I'm one of the co-mods for SS Chat, I don't want to look like I'm abusing my position.
Great point. Yeah, let's not. Yeah.
And I feel like I never make the social studies chat. It's right, like, as I get home and making dinner.
Mm-hmm. I think I made 2 in my life.
That might be 2 more than me in the social studies chats, but
Yeah.
I always just tell my kids, I'm like, fend for yourselves for this hour.
Yeah.
When it's over, I will be telling you to go to bed. So.
Which is a great conversation. Hey, before we start the show, so let's see if you guys could go back to the let's take a look at that spreadsheet of the episode guide and topics and all that stuff. So let's try to keep this as our master document that we'll always just keep adding to.
Cool.
Are we all in there?
Hold on.
Yeah.
There it is.
And in here, what we'll do is we'll just have the episode, like basically what the subject is. We put our things in here. I don't know necessarily if we need to put them all in. Maybe in the future we could just use the show notes and just put it there. But I think it'd be nice for us to have a running list of what we're doing, and particularly in the future, so we know that, hey, we're going to meet in 2 weeks from now. Next time we're going to talk about XYZ, or next time, whatever.
Well, and as we get more episodes, it'll be nice, so we hopefully don't revisit things too quickly or something.
Yeah. So we'll be able to see kind of what we're doing on that one. If you look at the second sheet on there, the one that says topic bank, Scott's already jumped in and thrown some in there. This is just the beginning. I just threw some quick spitballing ideas, but what would you like to be able to what do you think a topic could be, an episode? And so although I put the name down, so if you want to be part of that conversation, let's put your name there, because in a perfect, where we got all four of us, we don't necessarily need all four. As we find more and more people who may want to be part of this thing, we could rotate in. I can envision maybe having 6 people here, and at any time we have at least 2 or 3 people in a show. So it doesn't necessarily always need to be 4. But if you really want to be part of that conversation, let's put yourself up there. And also let's put if you want to be the lead on the show, and the lead is basically you're going to intro it, and as we do sort of the segment changes, and I'll show what it's like today. Basically, you just read the intro and then say, okay, and now this episode we're talking about analyzing art history, and so hey, tell me blah blah blah, and you just kind of take the lead from there. And some people are adding on too. It'd be nice to put in some special guest stars, right? If you got somebody who excels, like Michael Madera in gamification.
I think it's Matera, but he just did a whole book on gamification in the classroom. And he's a social studies teacher. Is he up in like Chicago?
Yeah, or Wisconsin. Is he kind of around Chuck Taft?
I think so. Well, and Chuck would be good too.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does a lot of stuff with his co-English teacher too. So like the reading and writing strategies, they may be some cool folks to tag into.
Great. And like Scott, I see you threw in here the election. That's a great subject there. Mm-hmm. Relatively timely. We should do that soon.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's what we have a lot of power to do, is bring in current events and create something that's useful for teachers to walk away from the show with, but having something that they can then utilize, next week in their classroom and something to talk about. And all you got to do is flip on the news to get, something. Yeah,
like but what a great conversation about how to be able to talk about the election without you getting political.
Without getting fired.
Without getting fired, yeah.
So we're social studies. Yeah, we're history teachers. We don't have any opinions. We just like to start the conversation.
But I don't know. But that's a interesting conversation, because I've worked with teachers who are very obvious. I'm saying beyond obvious. Clearly state to their kids that I'm this is what I am. My religion and my political affiliation, and I'm okay with you knowing that. And I want you to, and I'm gonna go with that. And I find that, wow, that's not how I do it.
Well, I think that comes, regionally too. It'll be really interesting to see, as clearly different regions have different political perspectives, in general, and it'll be kind of interesting as we bring in more people to see, how we can talk about those topics in a different light.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great subject. Whoever just put graphic novels in comics, that's fantastic.
Me.
That's an untapped potential. God, I go to like the public library and you see some of these just amazing stories. Anyway, we're getting off topic, but look at here, right? We already got like 20-something things, and if we do one every 2 weeks, you can see here we almost got like,
that's a year.
Oh, quick.
we got a year there. So fantastic. Yay! All right, let's just do this, huh?
Rock on.
Okay, so I'll do a little countdown, and we'll just talk. And there are no mess ups, because this is a live podcast thing. And like I said, hey, let's just have fun and have a conversation. In the beginning, since we all really don't know each other, let's go back over there and take a look at the show notes. So I'll read the intro, and I'll say you're listening to episode 1, September 15th, 2016. at that point, I'll throw in a little sound effect, and I'll say, okay, segment 1 is what's this show all about? You guys we're on the maiden voyage, and so let's all introduce ourselves. And then we'll transition to Chris, and you introduce yourself, right? And then, once Chris is done, Amy, you hop in, Scott, and then I'll wrap it up. I'll transition into segment 2. Okay, now that you guys got the whole idea of the show, we're hoping to do this thing every 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. Feel free to reach out, contact us on Twitter. And all right, so let's talk about today. We decided since primary sources is all the rage, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about primary sources. I'm going to move me. I'm not going to go first. Does anybody want to go first on this one? It looked like Scott, you wanted to come in after them, right?
I was just saying that in order. It doesn't matter. I'll start. I don't care.
Well, Chris, do you want to start like behind him? Because you brought up the Stanford group, and I was going to back you on that.
Okay, that's cool.
Perfect.
Let's do it that way. Let's make me last on that one again. So we'll just go for me. I'll intro it, and then Chris, you go first because you got Stanford, and Amy, you talk about it. Scott, you talk about it. And I'll just throw in that simple soapstone thing. Then we'll do transition. I'm like, okay, hey, the social. Oh, hey, let's come up with a better name though. What do you guys like? Because we originally it was social studies in the news. I don't like that, but I like what Scott was talking about.
What did Scott say?
I was just talking about trying to get something current that we can pull into the classroom. But I was on a blank for creative names for that.
How about just right now, social studies today? Because it could be current events. It could be
now in the news.
Practice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to make it just about the news, though.
Yeah. No, I think social studies today would be good because social studies today could be the news, or it could be just common practices used today.
Yeah. Okay.
Or something new or whatever. Yeah. Now hear this.
Okay. All righty. And I just had another idea. My fellow podcaster, he said, hey, how about throw like at the end of the day, you can have a conversation about like this day in history. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. I try to, years ago, I had about 3-4 years ago, my best web design kid, he created a JavaScript for me for my website. And every night at 12 a.m., my homepage on my website would flip to the this day in history that we chose. It would also pull in the image from the database that we put, that the corresponding picture. So if it was the fall of the 1453, the fall of the Byzantine Empire, it would pull in a picture of that as well and a little blurb, and it was fantastic. So I created this collection of this day in history for world history stuff, and then my goal was I thought, well, I'll make a Twitter account and sell it and push it out every day, and that lasted for about 3 weeks. I got tired. But I would love that. So I still have a collection of that, and we could do that's just world, but we could do U.S. history stuff. So let's just push that for maybe a second or later episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to throw a wrench in that one, but unless we're publishing this out today, right? We'd have to this day in history as of next Monday or whenever it goes live.
Good point. True. Good point. But hey, we can say this day in history when we recorded it. But
okay, and so. Point. Maybe one last thing to think about is I know, like, I think the intro is great. I think all the segments are great. As we say in the teaching business, the big thing is like tying it all up at the end. So what are we doing to like kind of wrap it up?
Okay, ideas?
As the crickets chirp.
Well, I mean, I'm open if we want to leave it. I'll leave it with this. And if you look at the very bottom, we can just leave it with this roll third-party hyperdoc link and give people something to explore. We can then just tag it onto the site, and I can walk them through what that is.
Yeah, do you want to say, do we even want something simple like, after that, like a little tagline at the end, like something, hope to come to you in 2 more weeks with another rousing episode of.
Yeah.
Or what the next topic's going to be.
Oh, good. So let's do that. Can we make the decision now to think that we'll always at least know what the next episode will be?
Yeah, we should probably have a pretty good idea of that.
I think we can do that. So let's go back to that spreadsheet and let someone make a recommendation. And also one that you'll take the lead on. How about that?
No pressure. No pressure.
If we're looking at about 2 weeks out, that puts us like the beginning of October. Do we want to do it? The debate should be out by then. Do we want to do the election one?
I love
that
it, Scott.
Probably needs to be done earlier rather than later.
And it'd be a good segue too with the doc out there, and we'll come up with what we want to talk about.
I'm going to go from topic bank. I'm going to change 2016 election. What I'm going to do over here is let's just do, how about, I'm going to strike it out there. Go to the episode guide, and we'll put that on episode 2. Done. Done. There we go. Okay. Nice. So then we can all start thinking about what would help out in terms of teaching the election ideas. Scott, you take the lead. You go first. Then you'll do the stuff that I'm doing today, which is the intro, the segment changes, and good night, everybody, kind of a thing.
Sounds good.
Sounds
Love
like a
it.
plan.
Yeah, and that's great too because your HyperDoc leads right into that. So
Awesome.
Okay. We're going to record here, everybody.
All right.
All right. Here we go. I'm just doing a wave so I can remember where to be able to go in the video to where this thing started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Talking Social Studies. This is the podcast where we talk about social studies and education today. Here you'll find conversations about strategies, resources, ideas, and more, all designed to help today's social studies teachers impact their students. You're listening to The Maiden Voyage, Episode 1, The Pilot for September 15th, 2016. So hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is a brand new podcast. The podcast that you're listening to is called Talking Social Studies, and that's kind of the idea here. We got a bunch of social studies teachers from throughout the country getting together and having conversations about teaching social studies in classes in lots of different sort of grade levels in different parts of the country, and put together a group of social studies teachers to be able to get together and have some conversations. So let's all kind of introduce ourselves first.
hello, everyone. I'm Chris Hitchcock. I teach world history for a private online high school affiliated with Indiana University. I've also taught in New York, Virginia, and Ohio, as well as Indiana earlier in my career back in the day. You can find me on Twitter at chitch94.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Presley. I teach world history and AP world history at Oklahoma's largest public high school. I'm originally from Missouri in the St. Louis area, and my Twitter handle is at STLinOK.
Okay, hello world. I'm Scott Padway, and like Ryan, I'm a tech TOSA in Pleasanton Unified School District, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. And before leaving the classroom, I taught U.S. history and geography, as well as 7th grade world. And you can find me on Twitter at Scott Padway.
And hi, everybody. This is Ryan. I am a technology TOSA, which means a teacher on special assignment focusing on technology. I'm in Rockland, California, but I'm a former social studies teacher, just like Scott mentioned up there. And I've taught a little bit of everything: world history, U.S. history, geography, lover of all things social studies. And you can follow me at Creative EdTech on the Twitters. And so that's your team for tonight: Chris, Amy, Scott, and Ryan. We are the host of this experiment. Is that what we should call it, everybody?
Sounds like a plan.
It's a good way to describe it.
Yes. So this process has been an interesting one. And so let's just briefly have a quick little conversation about how this kind of thing began. And so I do another podcast. I do a podcast called Check This Out. Shameless plug. You should check this out. About all things educational technology. And as I work with technology with teachers in my district and outside, I always go back to kind of my social studies lens about thinking that, boy, this subject's awesome, and there's so many amazing things you can do with it, and it'd be great if we could get a bunch of people together and talk social studies. So after having like a year of a podcast underneath my belt of EdTech, I thought, let's try to get a group of people together. And so how amazing the world of social media is. Put some requests out there and stumbled upon Chris, Amy, and Scott. And we created this. So what about you guys? What are your thoughts about this show and how you came about and all that?
So we're clearly working on some of the kinks out here as we're all staring at each other blankly, trying to figure out who's speaking next. I think it's an awesome opportunity to just spread the word about different teaching strategies and connecting with people around the country, and who knows, maybe we'll end up around the world one day as we continue talking just about learning, teaching, and current events and history. Yeah,
how crazy is the idea that we are? I mean, hopefully, how great if we get a world connection out of here. But right now, we got Indiana, Oklahoma, and 2 from California.
Yeah, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. For me, it starts off with Twitter, and then there's a little bit of blogging, and you meet people at conferences. But it's pretty awesome to sit down and talk with people from across the nation and get to know faces and voices and names and putting it all together.
And I have to say, the power of Twitter. I worked with pre-service teachers before starting starting my current position, and which I got because of Twitter, because of a connection that I made on Twitter, and trying to encourage new teachers to take that Twitter plunge and really find all the amazing connections and resources and just information you can get from Twitter and other forms of social media too. I think there's a little fear there that, oh no, social media is bad. I have to clamp myself down so I do not do anything wrong on social media. But I think the benefits far outweigh the potential downfalls as long as you have a modicum of sense about you.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, definitely. The conversation about social media and how it empowers teachers is an amazing one. And we kind of live in a world of have and have nots, those who are there and those who aren't.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're creating a resource that people are going to be able to use everywhere, right? I mean, new teacher coming on their way to work and driving in, and once every other week being able to just have, the conversation that they may not be able to have at their school site. It may be one way, but at least something to listen to and just get those thoughts turning.
Great point. Great point. So yeah, the point of the show here is who knows how long this is going to be. This is our first episode, so we'll find out. But we're hoping that this could be relatively bite-sized chunks in which that you could pop in and play in the car and or listen to anywhere that you're at. Which that's what's fantastic about podcasting. And like Scott mentioned, it is a one-way conversation, but we gave you all of our Twitter handles, and I'm assuming that you're listening to podcasts, so you probably do have a Twitter account already. But if not, you can sign up and definitely reach out to us to be able to kind of follow up if you have any questions or ideas about what we're doing, or if you want to be part of the conversation, because there's just 4 of us on this ship right now, but we definitely want to be able to listen and hear from others in this conversation.
Yes, please join us, because there's no way that we're the experts.
Yeah. Good point. All right. So, hey, and this conversation about social media, we touched into, and we've already envisioned that we're going to have a whole episode kind of on social media for the social studies teacher in the future. But let's get into today's episode, which is teaching primary source strategies. So today's episode is all about primary sources. The use of primary sources is becoming more and more prevalent in the social studies class at all levels. And the focus on these is to stress to our students that they should be the ones who are analyze history, not the teachers. So in today's episode, we're going to share some techniques and strategies on how and why to use primary sources. So Chris, let's have you kick it off here. Talk about some strategies, some ways in which that you think teachers can change the way in which that they use primary sources.
Well, I know a lot of times finding, especially as a world history teacher, finding sources that are manageable for students in terms of reading level and in terms of being accessible to students can be a challenge. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of the document-based lessons from Stanford History Education Group. Their acronym is SHEG, S-H-E-G. Their lessons include primary and secondary sources, and they usually involve a guiding question, a brief slide presentation that helps the students situate the topic and the question. And they focus on 4 main skills that they ask the students to use when they're looking at a primary source or really any kind of source. And those include sourcing, contextualization, corroboration, and close reading. I kind of call it SC3R. And SHEG has a lot of great resources that help teachers pass that information on to students. They have charts and classroom posters you can download or print or share with students online that discuss each of these skills and kind of break them down a little bit. So I find that really helpful. I teach online, so I can, share, and they're pretty much like, hey, modify our stuff. This is out here for social studies teachers to use. You don't have to use it any particular way. So with me working with students online, I have definitely kind of chopped things up a little bit and changed things around. But the students have responded really well to them.
Very cool.
I'm Amy. I'm in Oklahoma. I do want to point out that any of these resources and sites and stuff that we bring up in the podcast, refer yourself to the show notes. We'll post everything there. You can link it up and pull what you need. And please add if you get the chance. I'm also a big fan of the Stanford History Education Group. I teach a variety of levels, and some of their stuff, well, first of all, it's free. We're teachers. We are not making the big bucks, and the Stanford group is free. So that's
great
huge.
point.
You do have to sign up with them with an education address, and then they send you a link. So it's not, you got to give it a couple hours to get access. But they have stuff for American history, high school level, middle school level. It's all there, and it's so easy and so well organized. They deserve kudos for that. I'm not as familiar with the American history stuff, but I do know that it's there. My current favorite is for helping students is with primary sources is the HIPPO approach, and it's an acronym standing for historical context, intended audience, point of view, purpose, and outside information. And my students, my AP students, have to be very, very fast when they are breaking down a document. They've got a set time frame to break down multiple documents and then write an essay. So they need to be able to spend the bulk of their time writing. And the HIPPO approach allows them to, knock out the key pieces and then move on. And I really, really appreciate that.
So, hey, and I'm going to talk about an acronym later on, but can you go a little bit more about what the HIPPO is?
So when they're looking at the historical context, they're looking at, who wrote this and when and what's going on, around the world at this time. And when they look at intended audience, who are they writing this for and why would they bother? The point of view is there's usually a reason. Let's face it, we're out here making a podcast and there's a reason behind it. We're trying to make things more accessible for other teachers. And also the outside information. What other things can you bring in that would tie into this document and kind of help better understand it? So, and the kids, they get really, really fast at it. And in a minute or two can break down a document and move on to the next one to be able to synthesize.
I'm sorry to interrupt there. Do you use that with your non-AP students also?
Absolutely. We used it the other day with Hammurabi's Code. And they're laughing because of the reference, but seriously, I have some kids that range from kind of borderline having some real trouble all the way up to national merit scholars, and every single one of them can use the HIPPO method.
Now, when you do this, let's say with the Hammurabi's Code, so are you having them write something, or do you have them write in the beginning and in the end? Let's maybe just have some conversations about this, like, boom, tell me Hammurabi's Code, what's the historical context, or are they actually filling out some sort of like something?
So, usually the first couple times we use it, I, have them fill out a guided worksheet where they have to break it down by each letter. But usually, after the time you do something 4 or 5 times, they're just like, okay, HIPPO it out, and they're writing in the margins and then moving on. Gotcha.
Very cool. Excellent. Hey, by the way, I just saw something too. Did you guys know that Hammurabi, that actually wasn't his real name?
Really?
No. Yeah, his friends only call him Hammurabi.
Oh my God.
Here comes a joke. Yeah, his real name was Hammurabert. So that's a bad joke. That's my own joke. But the kids remember though. Yeah, call him Hammurabi.
Well,
do not judge us by the quality of our jokes.
Yeah. So unlike Ryan's joke, Shay is an awesome resource. But I'm going to move into another one that I love personally, and that's archives.gov. Especially if you're a U.S. history teacher. They've got a wealth of stories really about, the founding of our country. Everything, one of my favorites is President Truman's telegram to Senator McCarthy, where he essentially calls him unfit to represent the people of Wisconsin. And it was never sent, it was crossed out, but the stories that those documents tell are really kind of fascinating. And archives.gov, they have their own worksheet to go through and analyze their documents. But the other thing that's super helpful for students is that they have some secondary notes on those as well, and so it's all right there. You can start in the primary source and work your way through that, but where you get stuck, that secondary source really starts telling you the story of what it is that you're looking at.
Now, is that from the National Archives?
Yeah, that's the National Archives website, and like I said, for anything U.S. based, it's incredible. All sorts of things and untold stories you'd never know, like the electoral tally from 1824 and the corrupt bargain, and you can actually see how the votes in the House of Representatives went down. And again, it just paints a picture of the founding of our country.
This is really cool. So wait, how is this different from the libraryofcongress.gov/teachers? Because that's the one I'm familiar with.
You know, that's a really good question. And I don't know.
I'm looking at the two of them. These are different, but they're both from. Wait, huh? Scott, I'm a little confused. This is I've not seen this before, Scott. This is awesome.
No, I don't know. I've worked in archives.gov. I haven't spent a lot of time exploring Library of Congress stuff. But I'm curious now.
I know. Well, see, this is why this podcast. This is awesome. Like, I got a new something I need to check out here.
Well, we'll make sure we add the. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay, now you got me wanting to jump in just to start the trouble.
Well, if you have a chance, we have a place on campus, the Center on Representative Government, but they do this all over the country. There are places that will do workshops with the Library of Congress, teaching with primary sources. And I've been to 2 here, and they're awesome. They walk you through it. Basically, as teachers, you're going through what you would have the students do as students to analyze documents and all their different strategies and the different graphic organizers that they have, and just amazing resources. And they show you how to kind of navigate the site. So I'm not sure if there's a place on the Library of Congress teaching with documents section to look for workshops, but if you have like a university or something in your area, it may be something to look into to see if they provide those workshops, because they're free. They cover subs, they cover your mileage, they give you lunch. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, I did something similar to that in Springfield at the Lincoln Museum. Oh gosh, it's been a few years, but it sounds really similar, Chris, and it was phenomenal.
Yep.
Hey, as I'm looking here, Scott, at the one that you provided, the archives.gov, it looks like, so they got themselves a Twitter handle, which is pretty neat, called @DocsTeach. Does anybody follow them?
Yes.
Do you? I do. I've not followed them. They got 10.6 thousand followers plus 1.
Awesome. You know, and if I remember right, I think that DocsTeach, I think they actually have some like interactive tools that you can, build lessons based off of those primary sources on there. Which are pretty cool, and a few different models that you can package for students, and kind of give them the tools.
Yeah, so that takes you now to docsteach.org. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, DocsTeach.
Gosh, there's so much out here.
Well, hopefully we're funneling down for our listeners, or all 3 of them out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know. So hey, like Amy mentioned before, we're going to put all these links on here from archives.gov, DocsTeach, all these other different ones to be able to access and check out. Very cool. All right, so hey, it looks like it's my turn. I got caught up here looking at some of what these websites are. I'm going to look at the, similar to the Hippo strategy, I'm going to look at one that I think many teachers have used for a long time, but just if you haven't, and it's called SOAPS, or if you add the T to it, SOAPS with the letter T, which is some people call SOAPstone. And SOAPstone acts as another acronym or a strategy in which to be able to take a primary source and divide it up into its particular pieces. So very similar to Hippo, and there's other ones out there as well. AP Parts is one that I've used in the past as well. And basically the reason I switched from using one to the other is just because sort of vertical alignment. As a history teacher in 10th grade, the 11th grade teacher was using SOAPstone. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I think it's going to best fit our students to be able to kind of keep that same approach. So good idea as you guys thinking about as you get together with your teachers in your own PLC or at your sites about, hey, talk to people who are above and below you. If you can have the kids have a consistency as they move up the chain about analyzing primary sources, then you get beyond the idea of, that's where we're at in September, right? You're introducing how to do this, but how nice if you get these kids and you know that the people before you have done that. So when you talk about, like in SOAPstone, the S is for speaker, occasion, an audience, purpose, a subject, and then the last one is T for tone. And so then, how great would it be if you could just have kids jump into that? And so the SOAPstone works as like, who is the speaker? So you address basically the background and the information, the occasion, what was going on at that particular time, who's the audience, the direct audience, intended secondary audiences, and all these as you go along. So my key teaching point is, I would say here, is think about like when you taught your kid how to ride a bike. It's what's called that gradual release of responsibility, right? The first time you put the kid on the bike, you're holding the whole thing. Hey, you feel the wind. And the next time, you're holding the back of the bike with the kid steering. Then last you let go. So do the same thing as you introduce any strategy in terms of primary sources, which is do it with them. Demonstrate what a fantastic one looks like. You could do it and also maybe show some past examples. Really a great point too is keep examples from your teaching. As kids do phenomenal jobs about analyzing primary sources, have them see them, because guys, there's tons of primary sources. So it's not like you're, if you show them one, you're giving them a key. Let them see how other kids have done it in the past so they can model that. And so find one, like I said, my last point is find one that you, is great for you to be able to analyze and work with the teachers around you.
Quick question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, this is going to mean you're going to have to edit this part out, but suddenly
There's
it sounded
no
really electronic-y to me all of a sudden. What about the rest of you?
Yeah, you were sounding a little funky, Ryan.
Uh-oh. What about now? How do I sound right now?
It's kind of pixelated sounding.
Okay, so let's have you guys do most of the talking then.
Then there are three.
Okay, so let's transition into our final segment.
Social studies today, right?
Yeah, Chris,
Ryan, what do you got?
Chris, why don't you talk about what the point of this segment would be then?
Okay. Well, so what we're hoping to do with this segment is to talk about either a current event in the news or a current, basically something that's happening now, kind of cutting edge news, information, strategy, that kind of thing that has really jumped out at us in the last, 2-week period before this episode, and that we thought you could use with students right away, or that would really lend itself to making a change in your teaching or in your classroom.
Okay. If I'm sounding okay, can I jump in and go first here?
Go ahead. You're still sounding a little weird, but everybody will just assume you're like a mutant from the X-Men or something.
Yeah, do your best Darth Vader impression, and we'll cover.
We'll work it.
Okay. So mine's just kind of a simple and easy one, in which that it's just. Whoa, hold on. Let's have you guys jump in here. I guess I'm going on here.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I will jump in. I came across an article from WTOP, which is one of the Washington D.C. I think it's a news website, basically, also a radio station. But anyway, it was about how the Newseum, the Museum of News in Washington, D.C., gets their Today's Front Pages display created each day. You may be familiar with the Newseum's website's Today's Front Pages that gives you like the images of different newspapers' front pages from around the world. Well, at their location in Washington, D.C., they actually print out these newspapers from each of the 50 states. They pick a newspaper and print out the front page of it and put it in these display kiosks outside of the building, and then 10 international newspapers. And so the story kind of goes through how that process is done, and the guy who's been doing it for the last 19 years, even in their previous location, which was just outside of Washington, D.C., and how the technological capacity has allowed them to put even more newspapers out there than when they first started this almost 20 years ago. And I thought this would be a great, kind of an intriguing way to bring the students in and talk to them about the role of technology in facilitating creating this display and making things like Today's Front Page actually possible, but then also a discussion springboard about the use of newspapers, the role of newspapers, how the front pages of newspapers shape the discussion of what is news, what are the most important stories, and then also, why do front pages of newspapers differ so much? And you could really get into media literacy things like, okay, well, if the front page in, like if you're looking at the civil rights movement, how does the front page of the New York Times compare with the front page of a newspaper in Birmingham, Alabama, on, with about like the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing? So I think that you could really go a lot of directions with a source like that.
Chris, that sounds like an awesome resource. I've only heard incredible things about the Newseum, and I just immediately am thinking back to like yellow journalism and Who Sunk the Maine, and the evolution of those news stories, and even today, and how our news is shaped by the stations and that we're watching and listening to, and the perspectives that you're getting, are totally controlled by whoever's publishing it. That they control that medium, which I can only imagine this exhibit being just incredible.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, so definitely check out the site. You can just see the images here that Chris shared about what these front pages look like and how they're displayed. They're really incredible.
Well, mine isn't quite as current as the others, but with the topic being current of elections, I really find that when I talk government, that students come in insisting that they're affiliated one direction or the other, but they haven't really explored that. And so I used to have the kids sit down with isidewith.com, and with the current election, they can take a multi-question kind of personality profile. How do you feel about this? But the real clue with it is to have them click on the more options, because then it gets conditionals. Yeah, I agree with this statement only under this condition, or but if they include this piece. And so I don't know, it's like 50 questions or something like that. And they go through it, and at the end, it'll line up the top like 5 or 6 candidates, not just, Republican, Democrat, but they'll bring in Green Party and Libertarian and Constitutional Party and Tea Party, whatever's kind of big in the news right now. And it really leads to some great discussions. And then behind that, just for a little bit of fun, trying to get a bunch of teenagers to watch the debates can be like pulling teeth, because they're just okay. But I did find that like the LA Times will print bingo cards. And
that's cool.
You can play debate bingo. And the kid, and you do a back channeling with the kids, and they have fun with it, because they're like, oh, bingo, I got whatever.
Love this.
Well, that's awesome.
I've seen State of the Union bingo, but I love this. This is great.
And before each, LA Times is just one. I mean, there's several. I think Newsweek does one too, and a lot of the big prints do them. But what's great is they usually come out like the day. If there's going to be a debate, you can just Google search debate bingo, and you'll have the newest released card. It's pretty awesome.
That's cool. I'm tweeting this thing out as soon as I'm done with the episode, because this is so awesome.
That's cool. And I really like that I side with, with me teaching online, you can't, it's a little more challenging to have like the current events discussion. And especially my class is asynchronous, and the kids are all over the place with time zone and everything else. So I am totally embedding the I side with stuff into my little election module that I'm going to create to fulfill my state and probably federal requirements that I teach the election, even though I am teaching world history.
That's great. Really cool. Some great resources here. Fantastic. Hey, I'm going to jump in and throw mine in. These are really neat. What's fun is that as we're doing the show, I'm throwing up all these different tabs, and I got like 20 tabs already opened up. Like, I got to save later to check these things out.
Yeah, I know. I need another monitor for this one.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, I've got the laptop, the tablet, and the phone out, and I'm still feeling lost.
Awesome. Hey, so mine's just a quick one. I saw the NBC Nightly News, and it's just the idea that it's a museum now giving blind access to visitors, because how much do we really, and it's just, I'm watching this, I'm like, well, it's great to be able to allow an unserved portion of the population to be able to get a museum experience, but just, I felt like I wanted to touch these things, and it just really sort of impacted me, because I love in social studies how we be able to focus on the idea that we look at things and read things. But boy, there's so much power in touch. Touch is so incredible, and more of these museums are now giving opportunities to touch. And I thought that was really kind of an interesting news story, and one for me to share with kids, the idea that, hey, if you look at that history and things that are happening around us all the time.
Yeah, and to give them a sense of how, well, if you were visually impaired, how would that experience of being in a museum and interacting with artifacts have to be different, or if just to give kids that sense that, oh yeah, not everybody experiences the world the same way, that they do.
For sure. All right, well, let's wrap this up. Scott, let's round it out. What do you have to share with us about social studies today?
Yeah, well, right. So we have this two-party system, and it's interesting. Amy's referencing some stuff that really starts bringing in these, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth parties. But the reality is, that they've never really won. And I was kind of inspired the other day. I was reading an article about Gary Johnson being left out of the debate, and so what I did is I kind of put together this HyperDoc multimedia text set. And if you're not familiar with those, I mean, that's a whole nother show broadcast on, and I'm sure we can get the HyperDoc girls themselves out here for it. But really what you're doing is you're just curating a bunch of resources for students and packaging it up in an interactive document. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to take your lecture and give it to the kids. So everyone has kind of their own different experiences, but since you've put those pieces in there, you're not sending everyone out into the world to just grab whatever it is. And when you do that, what you hear is the main talking points that people are getting on their news and their media. And so this gives you a way to kind of look at it. So what this is it's a hyperdoc. You get it on our site, and it's about the role of the third party in American politics, and looking back historically when we've had third-party candidates who've gotten close, like Ross Perot, with 20% of the electoral vote, and not one state. And it paints a bigger picture of American politics, and there's a few pieces in there that you can really interact with. So as you go through and you experience some of the different links and read some of the resources and watch some of the videos, there's a place that you can vote, and let's see what people say. Do you think third parties ever have a chance? There's even a place where you can go and you can add, advise Gary Johnson. What would you do if you were advising this third-party candidate to get on stage? I mean, how would that change our election just to have him in the debates and have him as part of the conversation? Because, you've got Republicans who don't like their candidate and Democrats who don't like their candidate, but the way that the system's set up, it leaves just those two. And so that's what this tech set is really kind of about, is looking at the role that third party has. And it'll be really fascinating. He's pulling around 10% right now, but he's going to be left off the debate. And I forget what the magic number he has to get to be put in, but it's something that's like just.
I think it's 15.
Yeah, but it's not that far. But then, what role does social media play in that? Is there a point that we'll get to in our country when you don't need these multi-hundred-million-dollar media buys in order to have a chance to run for president? And how was that going to change the political landscape? And as you look, political parties evolve over time too. So it's kind of fascinating, and it's it's a topic that I think we're going to bring up in our next show. Really looking at the election and taking a look at some of the resources. The next broadcast should be out after the debate, and so we'll have some things for you, on how you can teach that with your kids. But if you go to the site and take a look at this third party, the role of the third party hyperdoc, and give it to your students and let them kind of explore it on their own. I tell you what, it'll free you up during the day in your classroom. It'll allow you to actually go around and have a conversation with your students. It might be a little different for you, Chris, as your students are all digitally interacting, but it allows you to do things that you might not otherwise be able to do.
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't, or you're trying to envision what this thing looks like, first off, not even from a social studies perspective, this is Scott, this is a gorgeous looking document.
Yeah, right, and it's I don't want to say it's rocket science. It's a Google Doc with a bunch of tables, and I've very purposely picked the graphs and the links and the images that are on there, but everything takes you somewhere else. And you can, there's guiding questions to kind of help you on your journey. But really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to empower students rather than this like sit and deliver, where I'm going to stand in front and I'm going to tell you everything I know, because I have a PowerPoint on the role of third parties in American politics. But I tell you what, I've put a bunch of kids to sleep just standing up there delivering it to them, even though I like to think that I've done a really great job in making it fun and interactive. But at the end of the day, they don't have any choice in the way that they explore that topic on their own. And so what this does is, as Catlin Tucker says, you become the architect of learning experiences, and you just kind of craft this doc for the kids, and then let them have their own experience with it. And then everyone's got the similar tools to have a conversation, and can, somebody might come up with a question and that somebody else has kind of found the answer to. And it's really engaging to see where they go with that, because they're going to think of things that you'll never think of.
Yeah. Hey, and so let's that just inspired another conversation that we have at a later time. But the death of PowerPoint, or really more sort of the end of the stand and deliver, was a great sort of conversation that I think we should have some time.
Well, maybe we'll have to add it onto the list of topics.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so definitely recommend you guys should check this out. And HyperDocs, I would love to be able to have them on. And if you haven't seen the HyperDoc handbook, it's fantastic. Lisa Heifel, Kelly Hilton, Sarah Landis have put this HyperDoc handbook, and it's been a huge buzz, a huge popular book this last year. It really kind of exploded.
Yeah, and I think the topic is timely. I think we all agreed that we're going to be talking on our next episode about the 2016 election, and hopefully pulling some resources for our maybe 4 listeners by then.
Yes.
To give you something that you can walk away with and continue the conversation with your students.
Yeah. So fantastic. Well, let's wrap the show up, everybody. like Scott mentioned, I think we're going to finish each show letting you know what the next episode's about. As you see, we ended up talking about the elections, and so we're going to focus next episode all about how we as social studies teachers can really provide resources and ideas to teachers about how they can really help their students understand the election process and things that are happening in a way that really kind of helps bring clarity to this really interesting election that's coming up. And any last thoughts from you guys?
No, I just hope that people would reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know what you think about the podcast. And also, if you have, let us know if you have ideas for topics that you would like to have us include in future episodes.
And certainly encourage people to join in and offer to, show up and talk about something. Like I said, we're not the experts, but we're just hoping to kind of and find them out there.
Yeah, it'll be great to see if we can get, the community involved in this. And the only thing I can tell you guys is I hope that we just maybe suck less next.
Yeah! Suck less.
The bar is low.
That's a great campaign slogan. Suck less.
Suck less next time. Yeah.
Well, hey guys, even though it was our first one, that was a fun little ride. I appreciate you guys joining in on that journey with me.
Well, thank you, Ryan.
Gotcha. Who knows if this is going to get published or not, but I promise we're going to get this thing published. And there, like we said, there are some show notes and there's a website. We don't really know where they are yet, but we're going to push it out on Twitter. And until next time, we'll check you guys out on Talking Social Studies. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Adios.
Hey, that's it. I'm going to end the show right there. What do you guys think?
Yay!
That's fun.
And sorry to hit and run, but I got a daughter who's got to get to singing, and I got to get her over there. But I'll be in touch with you guys in the Voxer group about when this thing gets done.
Sounds great.
Cool, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. That was fun.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.